ressenti partout.
What is going on, Jerk Faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's the conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. Yeah, we're back. I know we were on a little bit of a hiatus. I think it was
It's all
only
my
for
fault.
Of course, it's always being this show. It's always Robert's fault. Yeah, we're on. Yeah, but I mean, it's not wrong because Robert's schedule got a little bit flipped on its head, and so he wasn't able to make. Because we were gonna do a pre-tape because I was gonna be out of town last week, but Robert got called in, so he wasn't able to do the pre-tape, and there's no real point of me doing a pre-tape by myself, especially since we're gonna. We're gonna do the movie review and then also talk, about news stuff. And so, we just figured that, it'd be best if we didn't do anything at all. It's, I mean, if I'm to be honest, it was nice to have a little bit of a impromptu break.
It worked out because I'll be honest, I was completely wiped out last week.
Mm-hmm.
So
right, and I mean, again, like my normal work load is pretty light, anyways. But the last month or so, it was pretty focused on for content for the channel, and so just having this little respite before we start the next month was very welcome.
definitely.
Right. Yes. There. I mean, if you saw from the title of tonight's stream, it's Night at the Movies Part 2.
Guess I'll go to the lobby.
Yeah. But unlike Endgame, unlike Avengers Endgame, this will not run 3 hours, so you don't have to worry about bathroom breaks.
Hopefully
Although
not.
I will.
Maybe I'll need a bathroom break.
What?
Hopefully we don't need a bathroom break.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, I did see it over the weekend. It was a really good movie. I do recommend it, and and just to give a quick word, I think it was a very satisfying conclusion to for some of the characters, and as well as this chapter of the MCU. Especially if you were a Marvel fan since the very first Iron Man movie, then this is a very satisfying conclusion for just the actors who are now no longer contractually obligated and can go on to new projects and things like that.
Yeah, I have not seen it just yet. I've actually been rewatching all of them, so I can be really invested in Endgame and be caught up with the story. I mean, I've seen all of them but Captain Marvel, and I'm still debating whether I'm gonna do that.
If I'm to be honest, it's a lot of people, or I think Disney was trying to make it seem like it was important for you to watch it before you watched Endgame, but it's really not. It's really not.
Because it doesn't add, even a slight nugget. There's nothing slightly in there that might kind of add extra light to the story or add anything to it.
Not even a little bit.
Okay, good. Because I don't really I'll be honest. If I had to be honest, I don't really like Brie Larson. So
agreed. It was funny because one of my friends that I went to go watch Endgame with, he kept fixating on this one part about Captain Marvel, and I don't know if I don't know if it's so much of a
Spoiler.
I don't know if it's so much of a spoiler. I mean, for anyone else, just kind of, mute me for mute this for a quick second. Uh, well, okay, and so my friend, he like the hang up that he was having with Captain Marvel was that like in the beginning of Captain Marvel, uh, the character Captain Marvel, when flying through space, had to have an oxygen like mask, and there is an oxygen mask, that's incorporated into her suit, and she's had to use the oxygen mask every time that she had to be out in space. But but at the end when she goes full like Super Saiyan and take destroys all the bad guys single handedly. Uh, she did have her mask on in space when she was killing the bad guys, but at the very very end, when she takes off for deep space, she doesn't have her oxygen helmet on, even though she's in space. And so my friend was constantly harping on that little inconsistency, and what the hell is going on? This makes no sense. How could she need the oxygen mask in the beginning and in the end fight scene, but then at the very end she doesn't need the oxygen mask? What the hell is that about? And I was just telling him, I was like, hey, dude, just calm down. And I try to reason as much as possible with him, saying like, oh, maybe now that she has full access to her powers, now that she got her Super Saiyan aura around her, she doesn't need the oxygen mask anymore. But he was again, but he was like still spiraling, and so I finally said to him, hey man, just don't get you're getting bent out of shape for one flaw in a very flawed character. So you shouldn't let this bother you so much. And then he's like, yeah, you're probably right.
Well, this is our current day mythology. That's why we care so much.
Right, yeah. The MCU is this generation's Star Wars.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and it's not. I don't think it's hyperbole to say that kids are gonna get their morals from a lot of kids. Their whole morality is gonna be shaped from these movies, like from Captain America, or their or from Iron Man, or from Hawkeye, or the Hulk, or whatever. These kids are gonna their entire worldview is gonna be shaped by these movies.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing either,
No, no, nor do I.
because if you really think about it, a lot of like these characters have pretty decent morals and are setting up for goodness.
hmm Right. I think I
Like
would say that
they're
Captain
flawed.
America has the most consistent morals in the MCU.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing too is that some of these characters, yeah, while they've had checkered past or they have or they're flawed, they are still at least trying to fight for good. Yeah, Captain America has probably been the most consistent, where he's kind of the Boy Scout of the group, kind of like how Superman is in the DC universe. But the but even he has like he goes through a lot of moral challenges that challenge his belief system and what he believes he's fighting for.
Right.
Um,
Well, yeah. I would say his morals are consistent, but his outlook evolves throughout the MCU. Because in the first Avenger, he's literally a propaganda tool to sell war bonds,
Yep.
and then the second one he begins to question authority. Because before, he was a soldier and he followed orders, but now that he's no longer in a strictly military um, organ or institution, he's now a part of a paramilitary intelligence organization like Shield, and so
Yeah.
the it's no longer black and white. And even though he desperately wants it to be black and white, he's finding himself more in a world of gray. And then in Civil War, he decides that he's no longer going to be a part of any institutions, and you know he just wants freedom and and responsibility to be uh, to lie with the individual. And I think that was the whole point of his motivations in that movie. With it, at least in his opposition to the Sokovia Accords.
Yeah, he's a conservative that doesn't want some faceless world bureaucracy to hold him down.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think he states it perfectly when he was saying, when him and Tony Stark were arguing. It's like, oh, what if there's a place that we need to go, but they won't let us, and what if there's a place that they tell us to go, but we don't think we should be going.
Right. And it's and see what makes that such a good film, like why I like that and why I think it's a great interaction with all those characters is through traveling with all of them throughout all the films in the connected universe. You see how Tony Stark, he's this very brash, kind of looking always to create like the newest like weapon and to make himself better and stronger. And you see like it takes a toll on him as a character to the point where like he realizes that there's no why he makes the decision that he does. um and then you see how like Captain America, as we've been talking about, that he goes from just kind of the good guy soldier, follows orders, doesn't really ask a lot of questions, and he's put in a situation. It's like, wait a second, it stuff doesn't add up to him. And you see that shift heavily in the Winter Soldier movie, where he sees how his government kind of betrays him, and he sees all the secrets that are kept, and it's like, wait, this isn't right, and this goes against like what I fought for, what I stood for. um and yeah, you see all the shift in like all the characters in that way, and it's just it's I haven't watched Endgame yet, but catching up and watching all the films, so I'm more invested in Endgame, where I'm all kind of caught up like in my head, and seeing them all at once, it's yeah, it's something else. I actually appreciate the movies even more than I did when I first watched them.
Right. Yeah. Just quickly adding, yeah, because for at least Tony Stark's character and character arc, he starts off at this very as this very kind of selfish, anti-establishment character, but by Civil War, he becomes someone. He becomes somewhat of an establishment goon. You
Yeah,
know,
he kind of does. He
and so
realizes at the end that he's wrong, but it's kind of
right, or like because like he exactly because he might still feel that there needs to be um, that the groups like the Avengers or something might need oversight. Um,
I
it'd
think
be
a lot of
best.
it comes from the guilt that he feels for, kind of giving birth to Ultron, which killed a lot of people. I
Well,
think
I
that's
think
why he
for
has such.
Tony Stark though, his whole character is about guilt and the pain that he himself has caused. Because first, as a weapons manufacturer, and then of course on to Ultron, creating Ultron, and then also just being, or I mean, kind of backtracking a little bit. What is it? Or just being like or what is it? God, well, I can't think of. I know there's three instances of guilt, but I can't think of that third one.
Well,
But
then you'd have to look at Iron Man 3, where he allowed, because of his actions, Pepper ends up getting,
oh yeah, the
kidnapped and
extremis. Yeah, that's right. That's what it was. Yeah.
and
So
dealing with
yeah.
the
So
Mandarin.
yeah. So his, I think, one of the ways Tony Stark could be characterized is a man riddled with guilt for the actions that
Absolutely.
he has done, and I think his support of the Sokovia Accords was a way for him to kind of a way for him to not maybe to take personal responsibility, but have someone take responsibility for him. So he does it. So
Which
someone to make sure he doesn't do anything to cause himself to have more guilt.
is talked about in Civil War, where it's like you're not it's so what, you're just doing this to like alleviate guilt and like the putting the responsibility onto somebody else.
Right, shifting
It's
the
like
blame. So if something goes
the
wrong, then you can say, "Oh well, the UN sent us, so it's your fault." So it's the UN's fault, as
yeah, and
opposed
it's
to me, oh, we went there, these things happened, that's on us, our bad. We'll endeavor to make it right. So yeah, I think Tony Stark is a character that's riddled, or that's cursed with guilt.
yeah. I tend to, well, for me, like, my of the comic book characters that I tend to like smartass characters. So like
Mm-hmm.
I like Tony Stark, I like Peter Parker. I like well, Batman's not really a smartass, but like he's kind of he's a tough
The
guy.
Kevin Conroy Batman is.
Yeah, that's well, and
Yeah, the
that
Batman, the
that is
Batman, the
my Batman.
animated series Batman was a bit of a wise ass,
Yeah,
especially in later iterations like in Justice League or Justice League Unlimited. He was such a smart
yeah,
ass.
and Kevin Conroy is my Batman.
Yeah, right.
So
And
yeah,
like the voice that I hear for Batman, is Kevin Conroy. Now and forever,
when
no
I
one
hear,
will ever say that. I mean, I will admit, Bruce Greenwood and Jason O'Mara do pretty good jobs, but because it's from my childhood, Kevin Conroy will forever be Batman.
and that's why actually I love the Batman video games on PlayStation, because it's the
Oh, Kevin
animated
Conroy,
series
yeah,
characters that do it, and
I
the
know.
games are fantastic. Oh man. But anyways,
So,
what I'm saying is I like kind of like those smart ass characters, but I think re-going through this again, I actually have a lot more.
oh, did we lose him? Oh, okay, you're back. Okay.
No, I was saying that after going through all these films, and I'm not fully caught up,
Uh huh.
but I actually have a lot more appreciation for Captain America.
Oh yeah. No, I
Um,
mean, I've always loved Captain America. Even before the MCU, I've always loved Captain America.
well, that's true. Like I think he was one of my favorite characters to use in Marvel versus Capcom, the fighting game.
Oh yeah, like
Um,
after he beat someone, he goes thumbs up, soldier.
yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, I
But
think
no,
I identified more with Captain America because he kind of like how in Avengers Tony Stark says everything special about you came from a bottle. Because he wasn't someone who was gifted with like special abilities or an incredible intellect. He was just someone who basically was instilled with really good morals
well,
and
and that's what. Sorry, you finish up what you're saying, Andy.
yeah, he was someone who's instilled with good morals, and he was a weakling, and he was chosen for this experiment because of his weakness. Um, and I think I mean in the MCU, it's it kind of goes a little bit deeper, and the Doctor Abraham Erskine, he kind of sees he sees the qualities that he wants someone that takes this serum to have before they have that power. And I think it's exemplified in that scene in first Avenger when you know uh, when there's like a line of potential soldiers, and Tommy Lee Jones's character, he's like saying like, oh, what about this guy? He's big, he's strong, he follows orders. And then the doctor's like, well, he's a bully. He's known power. He's known strength all his life. He's not going to respect it. But because the character of Steve Rogers has never known power, but yet still has like stood up to it. That's what's going to make him a good soldier.
Yeah, well, and that line that Tony tells Captain Rogers is that it's like everything special about you came out of a bottle. Well, that's actually not true. Sure, his powers came from that, but what makes him special is his heart and like what his good morals, and that the fact that he fights for justice.
Right? He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't fight for himself. Because even like in the first Avenger, like he never fights a battle for himself. He's always fighting on behalf of others. Even before he gets the super soldier serum, in the movie theater, when there's like that kind of like brash guy who's during like the newsreel,
The newsreel, yeah.
yeah, newsreel part of the movie. He's like, "Oh, come on, hurry up! Like, where's the cartoon?" And he's like trying to tell, he's trying to get him to, show some respect and keep down. And then, the guy just keeps piping on. Says, "Just get on with it." And then, he finally says, like, "Shut up!" And then, the bully stands up and he goes out and fights him. He doesn't like shrink back in his, back in his chair. He goes out to meet um, the bully, not because for his own sake, or for his own honor, or for his own glory. He does it on behalf, because he was the only one to speak up against this guy. So the Captain America is someone who does, or Steve Rogers is someone who doesn't just fight for himself. He fights for others.
Yeah. And so I think I've definitely appreciated him more as a character. I don't know if he's quite become my favorite, but I definitely like him a lot more than I did when I first started watching all these movies.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say probably I like the Guardians of the Galaxy. I love Peter Quill. I just,
Oh yeah.
like I said, I like those smart ass characters, and I think, but kind of the same thing. He fights for, well, yeah, he is kind of that roguish thief, but he still fights for goodness at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and it's funny because I really like the second one. And I think
Yeah.
in terms of story and like narrative, I think it was perfect. Because it was like Peter discovering like he had like this really cool he has his father who's like all powerful, but then but his biological father doesn't love him, and he kind of realizes then that his kind of surrogate or adopted father of Yandu was his actual father the whole time. And yeah, I think the payoff at the end was phenomenal.
Yeah, like you learn a lot more about Peter as a character in that one, and really how awful his biological father really was, and kind of it kind of pays the theme of what is your family
Mm-hmm.
is kind of is brought up in that. And I don't know, man, like I said, these aren't the greatest movies of all time. Like it's no Casablanca or Citizen Kane or um, Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of. It's not any of these type of films, but they have a lot of importance and they're pretty damn good.
It's funny that you say that because for this generation, you know, Winter Soldier could be their Casablanca, or Guardians of the Galaxy could be their Indiana Jones. So,
And maybe so, and maybe I changed my mind in 20 years
well,
looking
no, I'm
back and
not saying
say,
that you
you
have to
know
change
what?
your mind, but I'm just saying for like kids growing up nowadays, this is the like yeah again Winter Soldier could be their Citizen Kane, or Guardians of the Galaxy could be their Indiana Jones, or is their Indiana
That's
Jones.
very true.
And
But I'm
so
just saying, like, I may change my mind in 20 years looking back and saying, maybe not all of the MCU,
right,
but I might, hey,
I'm
you know
just
what?
speaking in
Winter
relative
Soldier.
terms, though. I'm just speaking in relative
Yeah.
terms.
But I might look back and say, hey, you know what? Winter Soldier was a really freaking good movie. Like,
Yeah. No, I mean, I still maintain that it should have been up for an Oscar for Best Picture.
that one definitely I
Yeah,
think more
yeah.
so than
I
Black
mean,
Panther.
yeah, nothing against Black Panther, but it did not deserve Best Picture.
No, no, I don't think so
Yeah,
either.
not even a
Not a bad
nod.
movie though.
Yeah,
Not a bad movie, but
yeah.
not Oscar worthy. Definitely not.
hmm But then again,
Well,
that's
I did
just
not
that's
think that we were gonna get into the Marvel universe.
yeah. I mean, it's just so interesting. I think it doesn't get the credit that it deserves. I think you know.
Well, I hear a lot of the oh yeah, it's like we're getting the superhero fatigue and all this stuff. It's like I don't know. I think Marvel has done. You say what you will about the all the movies that are coming out now, but I think Marvel, Disney, they've done a very good job of putting out on a consistent basis. By the way, like coming out like maybe what year, 2 years, like every
Yeah,
year or 2 years.
more or less every 2 years.
Yeah, and they're coming out with pretty damn good movies. And like the story's connected, so you're not like it's not just disjointed stories, but they all kind of tie in to a larger picture. Um, and like I said, like when you're watching it, every couple of years, you kind of maybe forget some of those pieces, but when you watch them all together, man, it's really good. How I mean, it's very connected in a good way. Um, so I actually appreciate them a lot more now than I did when they all first came out. Um, and some might say it's like, oh well, we're 30 years old. Why do we give a damn about comic book heroes and stuff? It's like, well, there's a lot more. There's a lot of complex morals and story ideas and things that I think are worthy to talk about.
Right. Yeah. I
I mean,
mean, like
I don't
my interest in
idolize.
it is because I grew up with it. I grew up with comics. I didn't buy. I wasn't one of those who bought them like serially. But every once in a while, I'd pick up a copy and I'd read it. And I also grew up with the Marvel cartoons, X Men, Spider Man, Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Hulk. You know, so it's something that I grew up with, and actually, seeing it, in theaters and seeing it at the quality that we've been enjoying for the last 11 years, it's just, it's something that I never expected to happen, but it happened, and so it makes me really happy. But also, it's also telling really good stories. And if anything, if you guys know nothing else about me, is you should know that I really enjoy a good story.
Yeah. Hell, even like the Netflix original like Marvel shows were fucking fantastic too.
Absolutely, yeah. I know. I sometimes they don't get the credit that they deserve, but yeah, I mean those TV shows are part of they're part of the MCU.
Yeah, like Daredevil's awesome. The Punisher is fucking awesome.
Hmm.
John Barenthal I think is the best iteration of the Punisher I've ever seen.
Right. Although I watched a video essay about it, and they said someone who's like really into Punisher said that they did enjoy the Punisher TV show, but I think he was saying that the studio misstepped in that they turned the Punisher into Wolverine,
Well, they are kind
kind
of
of
very
like.
similar characters in a way.
Well, I mean, not according to this person who was like is like who's really into the character of Frank Castle, and who's it's not that Frank Castle is like this kind of hesitant like or reluctant gunslinger. Frank in the comic books, Frank Castle is like really a monster. He kills people because the origins of Punisher, like he's a Vietnam vet, and he was kind of going through almost like a PTSD thing when he got back, and having problems reconnecting with his family, and then like there was almost like he almost like missed the killing, not just like being not just being in battle, but he missed the killing, and and then when his family was murdered, he almost was happy about it because then it freed him up to go and kill. At least according to this video essayist. But just getting back to John Bernthal Punisher, I think he was fantastic. It was great. This last season was really slow. I'm not gonna lie. But
I thought it was great.
did you see the recent season?
Yeah, I finally finished it. I thought it was awesome. Like I thought it was actually it was pretty. I felt it was very well paced.
Really? Because I thought the first like maybe like 3 or 4 episodes were good, and then like maybe the last 3 or 4, but like the middle was kind of where it kind of lost me.
To me, I felt like I would it gave because there was a lot of very tense points in the show, and then there was times where it's like it gave you time to breathe a little bit because instead of just having it where it's constant action, and I felt like I needed those like points of like good breaks in like where it's like okay good I can breathe again. And you kind of felt like that maybe with Frank too, where it's like he's constantly on the go. I gotta attack these guys, and it's like okay good I have like a chance to like breathe for a second, and you kind of feel a lot that along with Frank Castle.
Perhaps I don't know.
And like I
Just
said,
for me, just for
I
me
might be in the
personally though,
mind.
I think if like they could have done without like the entire middle part of the season, and it still would have been okay.
Yeah, like I said, I might be in the minority in that, but
Mm.
And I think the other, and possibly the other part of the problem is the whole thing going on with, the dick waving contest with Disney and Netflix now, with Disney
Oh yeah,
starting
yeah,
their
yeah, yeah.
streaming service. So
Well, yeah, because
there,
Disney is starting their own streaming service, and so Netflix is like, motherfucker, and so like, I mean, they're not renewed. They didn't. I don't think they renewed any of the Marvel shows, and I mean, they flat out canceled Iron Fist and Luke Cage. Um,
when I think the Daredevil's was canceled now. I'm
mhm,
assuming the Punisher is too. Jessica
yeah,
Jones already has the next season ready to go, so I think that's coming out.
yeah. I think
And then
I
after that,
think this third is it the third? Yeah, the third season of Jessica Jones will like that'll be the last one that's on Netflix. And then after that, they're all canceled, which kind of sucks because they won't be able to. Disney won't be able to immediately use those characters again. There's like a contract thing where they're not
there's
allowed
a
to
2 year
use them for like
gap.
2 years.
So what I'm hoping is that Disney will maybe keep all those guys on, work on like filming a bunch of shit, and then when that contract is up, maybe they can um, use those characters again. Because I actually felt like they've started to fix Iron Fist and make that into it was starting to become really good.
Oh man, I
And then
fucking hated the second season of Iron Fist. Oh, I hate how it concluded.
um, but like the rest of the shows I thought were great.
Yeah, I mean, Luke Cage wasn't as strong. Luke Cage wasn't as strong as like the first season, but I think it was still good. Again, I hated the second season of Iron Fist or what they were doing with like the characters and stuff. It was just like, because it was almost like they're addressing all of the criticisms that like supposed fans were putting out. Like, oh, why isn't Asian fit? Why isn't the Iron Fist an Asian person? Well, let's make the Asian girlfriend the new Iron Fist. And like they made it like and they almost made him impotent in that like he couldn't control his powers during one of the seasons, and it's just like, god damn
Well, the
it.
other thing too that like they kind of I didn't really do either was so after the Defenders, Iron Fist was supposed to be taking up Daredevil's mantle, and then they never did
Right,
anything about that.
right, and then like they just they made him have like problems with his powers, and then like they took the powers away from him and gave him to a brown person, and it's like, oh no, we can't have that. So then they took the powers back and gave it to a woman, and it's just like, oh god damn it.
Yeah,
It was like
that show
that.
was
That entire season was SJW hot potato.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but the rest of the shows I actually thought were pretty damn good. Like
Yeah, it's like,
Daredevil
oh
season
yeah.
three
Another
was
thing is like, why did fucking his girlfriend have to, teach him how to fight? I thought he was already a fucking kung fu master. Why the fuck did she need to teach him how to fight? Ah, Jesus. Right. So I can get off this topic. Okay, let's get off this topic before I get really heated.
But
Let's
anyways,
get into our movie
overall,
reviews.
I was saying overall the MCU universe, whether it's the TV shows or the movies, overall has done a pretty fantastic job, I think.
Yes, yes. MCU, top marks, top marks.
Absolutely.
Top mark all the way. All right, let's get into the first of our movie reviews. And that's the one that we missed, which is Ghostbusters, 1984. Okay, 1984.
Just say the good one. I
Yeah,
think
the
people
good one.
understand what that is.
Jeez. Yeah, I mean, for those of you who don't know, Ghostbusters is about four men, three of them, being from academia, scientists who study paranormal technology, and then you have one man who's the everyman who is kind of like the audience proxy and kind of like reacts how we would react if we were to see ghosts or supernatural occurrences. But they are what is it? They are kicked out of academia, and so they resort to starting this business, kind of like exterminators, but for supernatural entities. And um, at first it's kind of slow, but then all of a sudden, the paranormal activity within New York begins to go into overdrive, and there's all so business starts picking up, and then they're introduced to this woman who's having all these paranormal instances in her apartment, and it's later found out that the supernatural happenings are effect of from this Babylonian or Sumerian god named Zul, who is who's going to bring about the apocalypse.
Yeah, yeah, that whole the premise of the movie is kind of, I don't know, kind of interesting. The just like that whole building was designed to be kind of like a gateway for it was these were the worshippers of this Babylonian Sumerian god, um and yeah, with Ghostbusters, it's kind of the one. I had to say, it makes me sad that like that feminist claptrap Ghostbusters is going to be what a generation thinks of as the original Ghostbusters.
Well, I
um,
think I heard that they're gonna deep six that Ghostbusters really hard because Ivan Reitman's son, is coming out with a proper third movie for the original two Ghostbusters.
yeah, that's what I've been hearing that, and oh my god, the backlash from the crazy ass feminists is coming out about this.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think well, I mean, you pretty much like, and here's the thing with like the movie, it's actually pretty straightforward, and I think you've summarized the plot pretty
Mm-hmm.
well. Um, so what are some things that you really liked about the movie? What character do you think did like stood out to you, like to be kind of like your favorite? What did you enjoy? What did you enjoy about the movie?
Well, for me, I think this movie is sometimes miscategorized as a comedy, when in fact I think it's more of a horror movie with comedic elements. Just like in just the way that some of the shots are done, like the one the opening one in the library, and like the all the like kind of supernatural things are happening as the librarian is going through the stacks, and it's just and then the final, the kind of accelerated close up at as like the kind of the ghost, and the implied ghost kind of attacks her. It's all like film language from horror movies, and I think so I think that this movie is often miscategorized as a comedy, when in fact I think it should be categorized as a horror movie with comedic elements. Um,
I would say that too, and I think maybe why I think of it more as a like a horror, like kind of like as a comedy film,
mhm.
and because I remember growing up watching the animated series. Do
Right,
you?
right. Yeah, the real
And so I'm
Ghostbusters.
Right, and I think that's more fresh in my mind than the original Ghostbusters.
Yeah, the movie.
And so I'm thinking, oh, because the cartoon is like it's great. It has a lot of like comedy elements to it, all that stuff.
Hmm.
And I also forget that like Slimer, he was their companion in the animated series, not in the movie.
Right. Yeah.
So
Slimer was actually the first ghost that they busted like professionally.
right, so it's kind of going back, I would definitely watching it again. I would agree with you. Yeah, it's a horror movie with comedic elements.
Hmm.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Yes, I thought so too. Um, okay, so you asked which character like stood out to me the most. Well, you know it's gonna be cliche, but Bill Murray steals the show. I mean, he is the
Yeah,
he's the most he's the biggest personality within the group, and so it's and
I would think he's kind of the main character. I think Peter Venkman is the main character. Like we see him the most.
this is true. Yeah, and he has like the most interact. Yeah, he does have a majority of this of the screen time. So um, so probably Bill Murray's Pete Venkman. Um, maybe just in terms of kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I guess the foil, just being the foil to the Ghostbusters. Um, that EPA guy is another person that sticks out to me.
Yeah.
Just because he's the foil to the Ghostbusters, and it kind of exemplifies the kind of government bureaucracy, uh, the kind of cliche government bureaucracy character. Because he comes in, swings his he swings the government's big dick around and gets things done just purely because he's told to and because he can.
there.
And so
Yeah, it's funny when I think of that stuff. There's a funny line from The Simpsons. It's like where it's like I work for the government. Like I don't. It's like it's something like where I work for the federal government. It's like I don't actually have a thought or opinion of my own.
right. Yeah, because I think Peck was the character's name. He only comes in because there's like this new technology that the Ghostbusters created, and they have no idea what it is or how it works, and so merely going on that basis, they want to shut off the containment device that they use to store the ghosts, and and even like the DWP guy, he comes in and looks at their equipment. It's like, hey man, I've never seen any configuration like this. Maybe we shouldn't mess with it. And of course, being emboldened and empowered by the federal government is like, no, it's like we have to shut it off. And so what is it? So of course, because of ignorance and incompetence, that's what causes the apocalypse to ensue. And I don't know, and for some reason, I feel like this movie is a little bit of a prophecy. In that, if when the apocalypse does happen to us in this life, it'll be because of government ignorance and incompetence.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, hell, I think the government is fairly incompetent right now.
Right? Yeah. No argument for me. Although my favorite, okay, what I will say is my favorite one-liner in this movie was when they're in the mayor's office and they're explaining things to the mayor, and Ray's like, oh, Dickless over here came and shut off our power, and that's what caused the goes to escape, and the mayor asks, "It's like, oh, is that true?" And then Peter comes back and says, "Yes, this man has no dick."
Yeah. That's right. I was. You and I had the same one-liner from the movie that we. I about died when I was like, I forgot about that line. It's like,
right?
I totally forgot about that line when I rewatched it. It's like, oh man, that was great.
Yeah, I literally laughed out loud. It was.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, it's true. He has no dick.
Oh my gosh.
Although,
Yeah.
interestingly enough, what is it? I totally forgot about this, but cameos are cameos. But Reginald Vell Johnson, Carl Winslow, Al Powell from Die Hard makes a cameo in this movie.
That's right. He does.
Yeah, he plays a cop. And he's the one that gets the Ghostbusters out and off to I think to go see the mayor or something.
He's definitely typecast as a cop, I think.
Right?
I don't think I've seen Reginald Vell Johnson do anything else in a movie.
I know, right? Although I
Yeah,
do remember he made a cameo in CSI as a psychologist for one episode.
I didn't see that. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think I remember it because it wasn't.
Where you're like, wow, he's not a cop.
Yeah. Well, for one, it wasn't too far off from when Family Matters ended. Because CSI was kind of came on the scene like in the early 2000s, and that's when about the time Family Matters went off the air, and so
Right.
it wasn't that too far off from that. And then again, like you said, it's like, oh my god, he's not playing a cop. So.
Was there anything that you did not like about Ghostbusters?
Anything I did not like about Ghostbusters? It's maybe the character of Lewis that Rick Moranis plays.
Doesn't he become a Ghostbuster in Ghostbusters 2?
Sort of, yes. He does. He does strap up in the second one, but I don't think I don't think he becomes officially a Ghostbuster. But it's also weird because there's a weird continuity error because in the first one he is an accountant, but in the second one he is a lawyer because because he defends the Ghostbusters in court in the second one. But in the first one, he distinctly says that he's an accountant, and even when
That's
he
right.
throws on that party to kind of as kind of a sneaky way of trying to get Dana to hang out with him. He's saying oh yeah, I got I told I put this that's why I didn't invite my friends, I invited my clients because I could put this as a work expense.
Yeah, I didn't like. Yeah, you're right, but I would agree with you.
Yeah, he's kind of I don't know if it was just his performance, but he was just really grating, and I didn't like. It's funny because generally speaking, I enjoy Rick Moranis, but or his performances, but this one was just very kind of it's kind of grated me the wrong way.
Was this one of his first performances? You think? Because I know he was really kind of big in the '80s and very early '90s, and he kind of left Hollywood after that. But
right. I mean, yeah, because he makes an appearance in Brewster's Million, one of my favorite movies.
That's right.
Yeah, and he what was it? He just plays this kind of known nobody comedian whose shtick is he just copies everybody.
I always thought that Rick Moranis kind of looks like a poor man's Woody Allen.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Um,
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, Rick Moranis. I mean, there isn't too many things that you can say that you remember Rick Moranis from. Maybe maybe from the Ghostbuster movies. Definitely from Honey I Shrunk the Kids. Uh, maybe the Flintstones if you're old enough to remember the live action
that's
one
right.
with.
He was also in the remake of Little
Oh,
Shop of Horrors.
that's right. That's right. Little Shop of Horrors as well. Yeah, so not a lot of things that you can say that you remember Rick Moranis for. At least people nowadays.
There's a few of those people that they had there's a few people that had a very short stint in Hollywood and they got the fuck out.
Right. Either because one, they were part of like a mega hit, and so like they were a bit typecast, or because it was a mega hit, and because of all of the residuals and whatever that they got, they never had to work again. Or two, they were just part of like a really bad movie, and then they were never offered work after that.
Yeah.
So yeah. But what were
That's a
some of
whole
the things that
different
you what
discussion.
was some of the things that you enjoyed about this movie?
Um, so I think just being able to like now I will admit that now I've seen all of Ghostbusters before. This is actually the first time that I've actually sat down and watched it, cover to cover. Um, because I've always seen it in parts. I've always seen kind of like the beginning. I've seen parts of the middle. I've seen the end, but I've actually never sat down and actually watched it all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I enjoyed that. Um, Obviously, Bill Murray's, Peter Venkman is A gets the most screen time. A is really funny. B is really funny. I actually really liked Winston as a character.
Oh yeah, Winston Zedmore. Yeah, I think he was
I found
enjoyable because, like, again, as I was saying, he's kind of like the proxy for the audience, and just like he was the everyman, who during even like the interview, Janine, the secretary or receptionist, she was saying like, oh, do you believe in like the supernatural, Bigfoot, aliens, this laundry list of kind of things that people make fun of people for. And then he just flatly says like, hey, if you pay me, I'll believe anything you want.
yeah, yeah. So that that line, I had forgotten about that line too, and that was like that kind of endeared me to Winston. It's like, yeah, it's like if you're gonna pay me, I'll believe whatever the hell you want me to believe in. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
uh, so I like that. Lots of great one-liners. Lots of great iconic scenes. Obviously, you have like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Hmm.
You have
Oh,
the David Bowie looking
oh yeah, the
poser.
David Bowie looking Zool. But
So wait, it's the so the main monsters, the main villains in the film, the monsters are because you had because Zool was one of the dogs, wasn't it? It was
oh, that's right.
because you're
Gozer.
thinking of the
Gozer
game.
was the
You're
name.
thinking of the Ghostbusters the game where it was the Zool building, which is like which is kind of odd. And it's one of the shittiest video games in the NES era, but because it was Zool and Gozer were the dogs, right?
Was it? Huh, let me. Go as I look this up real fast. Okay. bear whose farm is haunted by demonic spec Zul, a demigod worshipped as a servant to Gozer the Gozerian, a shapeshifting god. Lewis Tully for Ghostbusters possessed by Zul the Gate. Lewis possessed by the counterpart. Vin's. You're right. It's yeah, Gozer the Gozerian is the demigod, and then Zul is like one of the dog creatures, as well as the counterpart that the one that Lewis is possessed by is Vin's
That's right.
Clortho.
Yeah, Vince Clortho.
Yeah.
That's right. So it's Vince Clortho and Zool, and
Mm-hmm.
then they're the ones that open up the gate to release Gozer.
Yeah. There it is.
Yeah.
Hey, is it implied that they had sex?
What for which
Like
character?
when Dana and Lewis are possessed? Because she
Oh,
when Pete went to go see her after her possession, she's like, are you the gate, are you the key master? And he's like, no. And then she closes the door, but then finally when the possessed Lewis goes, they kind of, I think Dano's the one that like takes him and like begins to kiss him.
so no. So what happens was that so both Lewis and what was what was her name?
Dana.
Yeah, Dana were possessed. They actually had found Lewis beforehand, and so because they
Right,
were
right,
still
right. And
in.
then and then he kind of escapes and then finds his way back to the apartment, and then again, like, and then she goes like, "Oh, are you the?" He's like, "Oh, I'm the keymaster." He's like, "I'm the gatekeeper," and then
Is maybe that you know what? I think that you might be right because it's kind of the way that because initially it was Peter who went and saw Dana.
yeah, and then
Also,
and then, like the first question that she asked after being possessed, like, "Oh, are you the keymaster?"
it's like, oh yeah, I'm the keymaster. It's kind of
Right, yeah, and
because
then like
he's trying
she
to
like
keep.
basically trying to get him to do her. At least that's what I'm getting. At least that's the vibe that I got. And
Yeah, so
so
it's very, very possible that yeah, that was the way to fully open the gate. I don't. Oh man, that's kind of a creepy thought.
yeah. But I just remember another funny line. When Gozer asks, "Are you a god?" and Ray's like, "No," and then like the Gozer roars and almost blows them off the building, and then Winston's like, "It's like Ray, if someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes."
Yeah, I thought that was a great line too. Oh man, oh that was uh, like I said, I think overall like it's I see why people like this movie so much, why
Mhm.
people are passionate about it.
Mhm.
Um, of the movies that we've watched so far in comedy month, maybe not my favorite, but it's definitely it's an awesome movie.
Mhm. It definitely is.
There's something there was a great like fan theory video like it's the film theorist YouTube channel.
Yeah, yeah,
They had
yeah.
a whole video on how many calories the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that
that
video.
was that was an interesting video. So it's definitely an important movie for a lot of people,
Mhm.
and why the recent Ghostbusters film was such a travesty, and like it kind of it was kind of a stab to the heart of Ghostbusters fans who've been craving a third iteration of the series,
Mhm.
and maybe it won't, if and ever if it does come out, it'll be kind of hard because Harold Ramis is dead. And so I don't know if it'll ever be like fully complete, but yeah, I get it. I know, I see why it's such a kind of a cult classic, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully, they are able to get past the red tape or whatever at Sony, and they're able to make a proper third installment for the Ghostbusters series.
And like I said, I don't mind that. If, hey, like, listen, Bill Murray and all those guys, they can't be the Ghostbusters forever. I'm fine
Right.
with them moving on to a different cast of characters, but let it be a passing of the torch. Don't,
Right, and I think that's
not
what
this.
I think back in 2016. That's what we all wanted, or we were all hoping for. Um, but it didn't actually happen. And then when leaks started to happen about the script that Ivan Reitman and I think Harold Ramis contributed to was more along those lines where they just that they made Ghostbusters like kind of like Ortho or Terminex, where it became like the successful business, and then like a new generation, where and like they even like I think in their treatment they had a mixed team of men, two men and two women, and but it would just be like like the Ghostbusters, they grew and they expanded to be kind of like again the exterminators of the supernatural world.
And I'm fine with that. Like, I
Yeah,
don't mind new
and I
characters.
think
I don't even care if they're female.
A lot of Ghostbusters fan, I think they would have been okay with that because what I think uh, people I think studios are afraid to expand on things. That's why we got that's why we got Force Awakens, where it was just a rehash of New Hope, and it should when I think they were just too afraid to go out and try something different. When the fans, they really just crave they just really want something new, or I mean they just really want the story to progress. They don't want something to like harken, oh yeah, like, remember this, doesn't this give you the feels? It's like we don't want that. We want the story to continue. We want the story to advance, and and that's why we got like a Han Solo back to being a smuggler, and we got and we got a girl who's never been inside of a spaceship, all of a sudden can fly a spaceship, and um,
Hell, I wouldn't mind if they went like way back in the past and dealt with like some of the old like Sith lore and all that kind
oh
of
yeah, like
stuff.
old Republic stuff. If they went like old Republic,
I'd be fine with that, because then you don't have to deal with all like because that was thousands and thousands of years before Luke Skywalker ever became anything. And you could do something,
right? Yeah.
you could do anything you wanted,
But I mean,
and it's still Star Wars.
if they're gonna make a continuation of from the original trilogy, then don't advance the characters. Don't I think they really did. I mean, other than killing off Han Solo, they really did him dirty by making him a deadbeat dad, and someone who just goes back to being a smuggler.
And turning Leia into some lesbian.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Well, and
But
that's the
anyways, yeah.
we've gone down that road.
Yeah, we gone that road plenty of times now, and I think anyone who watches this knows exactly how we feel about that.
I know exactly what your least favorite film is now.
Yeah, well,
You
no,
said
because like
you
I have like
said
a.
that
It's not my
that
least favorite.
episode
It's
8
not my least favorite because to be completely truthful and honest, like I don't hate any movie to the lengths that I hate Last Jedi.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I know what your least favorite movie is. It's The Last Jedi.
Yeah, but it's like it's not even like least liked. It's I hate that movie. It offends me personally.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you can't just talk about it in terms of like dislike. I hate it with a passion. It is personally offensive to me.
You've
But
made that
again, I
clear.
digress. Let's wrap this one up with put a little bow put a shiny bow on it. Rating. What do you give it?
I'm gonna go 3.5 stars.
3.5 stars. Okay.
And
Nice.
and I solid in the middle. Um, like it's definitely, I think, a must see. I would agree with you that maybe it's not a comedy film, but it's very funny.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all the yeah, outside of Lewis, all the characters I think are pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's different. But I like it. It's a good film.
I agree. For me, I give it a 3.
Yeah, if we were doing like a horror month, it
Mm-hmm.
would probably be a 5, like a 4 or 5, just because it's definitely more horror than comedy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny. It's got a lot of great
Yeah, it
great
has
one
like yeah,
liners.
it just it has humor in it, even though it's like it's more in the vein of like a horror movie. Uh, but it has humor.
And but it also has a lot of those like iconic moments too. Like everyone knows who the Stay Puft Marshmallow guy is.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows who Slimer is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think
Everyone
like
knows this. If
and
asked if you are a god, you say yes.
you hear was it Ray Parker Jr. the Ghostbusters theme?
Yeah,
Like everyone
Ghostbusters
knows
thing.
that
Everyone
song.
knows it. Yeah, everyone knows it. And if you do not scream out, who are you gonna call? And then you don't scream out
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters, you have no soul.
Yeah, I couldn't name you another Ray Parker Jr. song, but I know that song.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, talk about your one hit wonders, but when you get residuals off, when you get residuals for however many years, you don't have to do another goddamn thing in your life.
If he invested his money wisely, he's set.
Right. Right. But like even when they play that Ghostbusters on TV, he still gets a cut. He still gets a paycheck.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. So even if he doesn't like spend his money wisely, I mean, he's still pretty good. I dare say. All right. Let's go on to the next bit, and that is you want to talk about what is it? Two Kubrick movies.
Yeah. So last week, this is stuff that I wanted to talk about last week that I really got into. Um.
Yeah, I remember in
So
the chat.
yeah, I've been talking about this. I've been talking about both of these movies for 2 straight weeks. But the Andy and I both watch a guy by the name of Owen Benjamin. Maybe some of you who watch this show maybe watch him too. And but he had a thing talking about some of the Kubrick films, and uh, The Shining, and he was talking about The Shining and Eyes Wide Shut, two Stanley Kubrick films that we haven't talked about on this podcast before. And I was like, well, it was kind of like he had some interesting theories on about those movies and about Kubrick. And I'll be honest, I have never seen Eyes Wide Shut before. To be honest, I actually thought it was just kind of a straight kind of sexual deviancy type of film. And so that kind of, when it comes to that, if I'll be honest, that's kind of why I stayed away from watching that film, because I don't necessarily like those type of movies. I don't like sex just for the sake of sex in a film.
Mm-hmm.
But after hearing
I
some of
think
the
that's
theories
why.
of like,
Well, I'm sorry, really quickly. I think that's why I haven't watched Game of Thrones. It's because I know that there's like all this sex, and I know like people tell me that it's a really good story and about power and power acquisition and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know.
here's why here's why I oppose you on that, because it's not sex for the sake of just sex in ways,
Okay.
because it is part of the storyline. It makes sense to the story, and it's an integral part of the story, and it creates a bigger picture and challenge for all the characters. So that's what I'll say, because I don't want to give anything away,
Hmm.
but when you watch it, you'll see what the hell I'm talking about.
Okay. I mean, if I watch
And
it.
it's not like where let me, and I'll say this, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna get aroused by watching these like sex scenes, because it's not really arousing. It is, in some ways it is kind of horrific,
Right, because like
but
there's a
at the
lot of like
same
there's
time,
almost it's almost like rape. Or a lot of like
right,
the sex scenes are really rape scenes.
right, but those scenes do play an integral part in the story. So it's not just like for the sake. It's not because, oh, it's on HBO, let's show boobs and sex. It really is not the case.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll take your word for it. But I'm sorry. Yeah. Continue.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyways, so that's kind of why I stayed away from Eyes Wide Shut for a long time, and I just thought it was like, oh, it's about like marital infidelity and just fucking and stuff like that. But after watching the one of Owen Benjamin's live streams, I decided to say, all right, well, let me watch this, and let me see like if what he's talking about is kind of the case of the movie. And so on Easter, and it had already been kind of a long, it was in the middle of that like really long week for me. And so I was like, well, I have some time. Let me watch Eyes Wide Shut, which is kind of a long movie, by the way. It's like 3 hours, almost 3 hours.
Wow. It's almost a long. It's
Um,
so it's like the same length as Avengers.
yeah. So I started watching that. I was like, and I literally, I was, I could not, I was laying down, and about like 20 minutes in, I was on the edge of my seat, like, uh, with the movie. It was not what I expected, and I'll be honest, like, and it has now become one of my top favorite movies.
Hmm.
It is one of the most intense films I have ever seen in my life.
Really?
Um, yeah, for one, the infidelity aspect. There's really no infidelity that is shown on screen per se,
Hmm.
but it does raise the question of what is cheating in a sense. And you kind of and the other thing that's you kind of go through is you're put in the seat of Tom Cruise's character, Dr. Hartford, and you don't just follow Dr. Hartford, you become him. Stanley Kubrick puts you in his role in
Oh,
a
okay.
sense.
So it's almost like POV.
Yeah, exactly. You become him in the film,
Hmm.
and all the like. And Dr. Hartford is not a necessarily a moral character in a sense. Like, I wouldn't necessarily call him a good guy, but you understand why he kind of goes down the road that he goes down. And the other aspect of the film, and Owen Benjamin talks about how he believes that Stanley Kubrick was killed for making this film. in the fact that he in the process of Dr. Hartford's journey, he stumbles upon a secret society of like this sex cult that he stumbles down, and it is one of the most terrifying. Like when he first gets there, it's very terrifying. He gets discovered, and then this secret society that it's like he is saved by one of the people in the cult, and but from that point on, his life and the life of his family is in danger, but yet at the same time, like, he's still like trying to find out about like what the hell happened, and from that journey, he realizes how everyone that he has known and is connected with has either been affected by or is part of that cult. And this kind of idea of these secret societies and cults that are within society that are around, it's kind of a horrifying thought. And I'm a it's and there's potentially missing footage from the film that was taken out, and I can see where there's definitely parts in the movie where it does feel like there's certain points missing, because the ending is lacking just a little something, but man, it is. I have not felt this affected by a movie in a long time. I'll say that.
Mm. Yeah, no,
Just
I
where it's
mean, I
like
remember. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that live stream from Owen Benjamin, and he doesn't necessarily uh, hold Kubrick in in high esteem, but he feels that he made this movie. Uh, you know, what is it? Kind of like a warning, or it's like, hey, people, open your eyes, kind of thing. Um, to let them know that there are things going on, behind the scenes. Not is everything is not just like how it's portrayed on Entertainment Tonight or Extra or on
no,
E.
it is. I'll be honest. I was completely surprised by the direction that movie went, because it kind of starts off with the relationship with Dr. Hartford and his wife Alice,
Mm-hmm.
and there's definitely that aspect of it. But then it goes down this different direction. But then you see how that different direction is actually very connected with everything else, and it's like, whoa! It's a thriller. It keeps you on like the edge of your seat. It's a very chilling movie.
Yeah, I'll have to give it a. I'll have to give it a really good watch. Uh,
Yeah, because I actually that night I didn't sleep. That's how this movie
wow.
affected me. I didn't sleep, and I ended up like watching a bunch of other like kind of videos on fan theories and stuff about it, just because it affected me that much.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay.
And I will have to say it is definitely one of my favorite. I would actually say now it's probably my favorite Kubrick film,
Mm-hmm.
and it's definitely in my top 5 favorite films of all time.
Wow.
That's how much this movie affected me. I haven't been this affected by a movie in a long time.
Hmm.
I haven't been able to stop. For a couple weeks now, I haven't stopped thinking about it, and I haven't shut up about it. That's how much this movie has affected me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because in our group chat, you were like, yeah, you and Matt were, you guys were, going like, back and forth for a really long time about this movie.
Yeah, I haven't shut up about it for about 2 weeks. I've been telling you, like, dude, you gotta watch this film. Like, this is telling us something. This movie is definitely telling us something, and it brings up like a lot of the issues that like are the themes that are what we see on like Entertainment Tonight, like the whole idea of relationships and what is cheating and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely there. Like I'm not, and it's not like they're lying to us, and that's not an aspect of the film. Because
Well, what about like
that's definitely
the whole like arranged kind of relationship? I forget. Was there an element of that in Eyes Wide Shut?
like
Because it's.
arranged a relation.
I'm sorry.
Well, definitely with the sex cult that
Right. Well,
Dr.
because it's
Hartford discovered.
interesting because everyone knows that Tom Cruise is a Scientologist, and that I think they are classified as a cult by the FBI, or is that just
Yeah, they're a
Jehovah's
cult.
Witnesses?
Nope, they're a cult.
Okay, right. And after after Tom's divorce from Nicole Kidman, he was linked to several different people, but one in particular. Let me look her up. She's
You look that up. I'll be right back.
okay. Let me see. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, folks. Uh, what was it? Tom Cruise was linked to a woman. Let me just. Uh, well, basically, it was rumored that the Church of Scientology had set up for Tom Cruise to be with this woman, and it kind of goes into. And I'm sorry if I butchered this name. Nazanin, Nazanin, Nazanin Baniati. Um, for those of you who need a little bit more context, she was also on. She was a recurring character on How I Met Your Mother, and girlfriend to Neil Patrick Harris's character Barney Stinson. If you didn't know, those two dated for a little bit, um, and it was rumored that the Church of Scientology set them up as like to be like the next like power couple or something. Oh,
Interesting.
yeah, yeah, this actress by the name of Nazanin Baniati.
I'm trying to remember her face, but I'm pretty sure I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah,
But
like British Iranian chick. She played Barney's girlfriend on How I Met Your Mother.
yes, I know. Yeah, now I definitely know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because like she and Tom Cruise went out for a little bit, and yeah, like I was again as I restate, it was rumored that the Church of Scientology had somehow like orchestrated that for some reason.
The oh, sorry, hold on one second. There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, no, so the question you were asking was, is this kind of like symbolism of like kind of arranging relationships?
Yeah.
And when it comes to when Dr. Hartford arrives um, at that secret society meeting, that is definitely an element there that's there. Um, I think the thing that's kind of uh, I guess I haven't really thought of that part of it,
Mm-hmm.
but that's certainly something that is there. The one thing that there's a lot of different theories as far as certain characters. There is a because everyone in that cult is masked.
Right.
That was like one of the things. Everyone had to be masked.
Mm-hmm.
Even like the security guards were masked and stuff. So when there's the character, the leader, or at least the guy that's
Yeah,
running
kind
the
of like the high
ceremony,
priest character.
right? He's called Red Cloak,
Mm-hmm.
um, and he's the one that's giving the women off to all the other people.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not really sure in some cases, like, is someone like a man or a woman? Because there's some cases where like it's very ambiguous in
Mm-hmm.
some cases. But Red Cloak is the one that's running this thing, and there's a lot of ideas of who Red Cloak was in the film. Um, some of the things that Dr. Hartford wife describes, like from her dreams or fantasies that she was having,
Mm-hmm.
are like some people, and we're not obviously like there's missing footage in the film. There's some that believe that she was actually one of the women that was in the this cult, and
Right. Kind of like, yeah.
everything
Kind of
led
yeah.
to
The kind of the
her.
offerings or like the temple prostitutes, quote unquote.
Right, exactly. Well, because there's a scene right at the very beginning of the film that is very uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
where they go to this party, and um, it was a friend or a client of Dr. Harford's that they go to, and he has to go, and he's kind of schmoozing with some of the other people, and he's like, "Oh, I'll be back in a second. Just I'll meet you at the bar." And so his wife and this Hungarian guy are dancing, and kind of very, very provocatively in a way. And people believe that he actually may be the leader, the Red Cloak character, and that he was inviting her, or kind of recruiting her to become one of the temple prostitutes in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
because it turns out that a lot of the people that were at that party were actually members of that society. So
Mm.
it's just fuck, man, there's so many different directions with that film too, and they're all like they could all be right. That's the thing. It just is one of those films that like it's such a good movie, and it's so horrifying at the same time. Like I said, I've never been affected by a movie like this in such a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like yeah, I mean like the movies like Gosnell or Unplanned, like they were very impactful, and they hurt in a different way. But man, this is one of those things that it's revealing a truth um, in the world around us that people don't see.
Well, could you? Mm, okay, this is just me shooting for the hip, from the hip. But um, would you say that that Eyes Wide Shut is revealing a more spiritual truth.
I don't know if like a spiritual truth, but it's definitely I think it's revealing a reality that's actually going on right now. Maybe
Mm.
not necessarily in like red cloaks and masks.
Hmm.
I think that's all is like a symbol, but it's kind of like it's these like hidden societies
Right.
and
I mean, because the mask is just is an easy symbol for anonymity or dual identity. So like whatever your
right,
mask is, that is your in there in like when you're at like the meetings or whatever, that mask is your identity, and like so.
right, and the fact that like you're even there means that like it makes you anonymous because
Right,
these
and like when you're there, you're from what I remember, if I'm remembering correctly, everyone's like kind of wearing cloaks, and like
everyone's wearing like
black
some sort of costume.
cloaks, and so like that's another way of kind of like an erasure of your identity, or a concealment of or it's just concealment of your identity. So like when you're there, you're another identity. You're like the mask that you have. That's your identity.
Right, and that well, and that there's a duality with like the party that you see uh Dr. Harford at the very beginning,
Hmm.
where everyone's like, it's they're dressed up nice, like their faces are revealed, but they're acting all very kind, all that stuff. That's actually the real mask. But when
Right,
they
right.
go
That's what I
to
was.
this,
Yeah, that's what I was just about to
but
get
they're
to.
but these same people are at this party, or at this secret area, and well, they're cloaked and masked, but that's their real identity. Like
Right, 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 right,
the
right. Yeah,
it's
the public face, the one that everyone gets to see. That's the mask. But the true
right.
self is only revealed once the mask is put on.
Exactly, and it's fuck, man, it's horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, I like you know. Let's just go with the premise that this movie is depicting something true. So like the George Clooney mask that we all get to see, that's not who he really is. He's somebody else, or the Julia Roberts, or you name them.
That's yeah, it's
Any like famous person, maybe even politicians, like the Nancy Pelosi, like the face that we get to see, that's just a mask for who she might really be in like the secret society.
right, and we definitely we've known about like some of these like secret islands, like these secret sex islands that some of these people go to with
Hmm.
whether they're fucking kids or like just random women and stuff like that. We kind of know that those places exist.
Hmm.
The the a lot of more truth is coming out about a lot of this stuff,
Yeah,
and
like
this
Jeffrey
is
Epstein, he was like his like name, like like he was recently indicted or arrested or something, and I'm sure not a lot of people know who he is, or like why, or some of his more notable associations.
and I to be honest, I think a lot of those guys, well, like, 'cause I think they actually did this, but I think they're sacrifices by the group to kind of like keep
Throw people off the
suspicion away.
scent.
Exactly.
Mm.
Because I think if
Right. So
people were
they're
really,
strategic sacrifices.
yeah, I really think that they're to keep them off the scent of what's, because I think when if we ever like get to a time where the truth is revealed, we're going to be very surprised by who is connected with these disgusting people.
Hmm.
Um, and I could see, and I don't know if I 100% believe this is what Stanley Kubrick was trying to do,
Hmm.
but I could see where this is a movie where even if maybe this wasn't what he was trying to reveal, that the people that may have been screening this film or saw this, like they were like, oh fuck, and we need to get rid of this guy.
Right. I mean, because
And,
one of the biggest things was that he before the movie had or been finished editing or even finished shooting, he mysteriously died.
right, and the thing was, it was like they deemed it a heart attack, but he was in good health,
Right.
and he wasn't that old,
Right. He was
really.
only in his 50s.
Yeah, so it's very, very suspicious.
Right. I mean, and just kind of like interestingly enough, I mean, recently John Singleton passed. Notably for directing Boys in the Hood, and he wasn't that old
Yeah,
either. He was only 51.
yeah, it's just I could see where people were creeped out by it,
Mm.
and it's like, oh crap, he's on to us, and but even then, like there's people that I it's not that Stanley Kubrick was some sort of necessarily innocent character, but maybe
Right.
he was like trying to like, hey, I don't know if I can go down this road, and started to reveal some stuff because there's some people that believe that like with the whole they had some moon landing conspiracies that he like always tried to talk about, and
Right. I mean, because yeah, he for those of you unaware, Stanley Kubrick has been linked to some of the moon landing conspiracies and how he was the one that directed uh, the footage for of Neil Armstrong. Neil Armstrong coming down the ladder on the moon landing on the lander, and some of the footage you see, the astronauts, jumping around and whatnot.
yeah, man, I don't want to get into that today, but we'll definitely get into that at some point. Because
Yeah.
now I'm starting to question some things too about it. It's just, but I'm not gonna get into that today because that's a whole nother like discussion.
Yeah, you'll get there, Robert. You'll get there. Just wait till you start questioning whether or not the Earth is actually spinning.
Because now I need to go down because, like I said, there's been enough questions raised, and I've heard some of the testimony from people talking about this stuff that are the quote unquote experts, where like, okay, now I need to go down a systematic approach of, all right, let's go through all the Apollo missions, through all like what people are talking about, and actually looking at what's going on before I make an opinion on that.
You'll get there, Robert. You'll get there.
But anyways, so that's my talk about Eyes Wide Shut. It's man, it if you haven't seen it, it's a 20-year-old movie at this point, which is crazy to think about. That 1999 is 20
Oh
years
yeah,
from
that's
now.
right. It's 20 years ago. Yes,
20
that's just like
years
Saving
ago.
Private Ryan.
Yeah, but it is, to me, it is a must-see movie. I actually think it's Kubrick's best film, and
Better than
I've
Spartacus.
never had a movie. I don't think I've ever had a movie impact me like this in a long time.
Okay. All right. Yeah. You can't get a better endorsement than that. This movie keeps him up at night.
It literally kept me up all night because I went down the whole like road of looking at all the different theories on the film, and like I'm still looking up stuff on the film right today, and this is 2 weeks ago.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. This. Yeah. Maybe this might lead you down to Bohemian Grove.
Maybe
Yeah, 'cause that's a really freaking weird thing.
Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, it's the one that Alex Jones went and like successfully recorded like their big owl burning ceremony. Not like a
Owl?
not like a real. It's like, yeah, it's like this. spot. I forget where, like somewhere on the East Coast. And then there's like this, like world leaders go and meet up at this place, but no one is supposed to know about it. And Alex Jones was the one who went and like filmed like one of their ceremonies, and like they stand in front of this big like owl like statue, and they all like wear masks, and like they kind of like like do like this walk around like over this huge open fire and stuff.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, I hope you have a good
Oh,
night's sleeping tonight, Rob.
Jesus Christ. Now I'm going to have to look that up after we're done. What the fuck? Thanks a lot, Andy. All this weird, like, pagan shit that, like, our world leaders are into. Fuck. God damn it.
Sorry. I thought you knew.
No, I didn't know about this. What the fuck? God damn it. This shit keeps me up at night. I'm not gonna be able to sleep today. Thanks.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought you knew. I thought you knew.
No, I didn't know.
How could you?
Okay, well, anyways, another thing to keep you up at night is which is another Owen Benjamin theory that I actually think is a true theory about this other Stanley Kubrick film. Everyone knows everyone knows The Shining, which is was Stanley Kubrick's adaptation of the Stephen King novel, which is the movie is very different from the book. They're to be honest, they're two different stories, and there's a lot of questions as to what exactly The Shining is talking about. And you look on YouTube, you look at all the different fan theories. There's lots of theories out there about what's going on. And to be honest, I think there's definitely a place for all of those theories. Maybe they're all true. Who knows? But Stanley Kubrick is definitely a guy who uses a lot of symbolism. And in this particular film, there is a fan theory where the reason that Jack Torrance goes crazy is because he is guilt-ridden over the fact that he molested his son. And there's a lot of there's one scene in particular that has questioned a lot of fans as to what the fuck is happening here, for one. And there's it's the scene where what the hell is Shelley Duvall's character? What's her first name? Mrs. Torrance, but I always forget her first name.
Let me look it up.
Was it Wendy? Yeah, it's Wendy, right?
1 second. Shelley Duvall. Yeah, Wendy Torrance.
Yeah, Wendy Torrance. So towards the end of the film, as Jack has already gone crazy, she runs up, and then there's a room in which she sees a guy in a bear costume, sucking cock from this this guy in a tuxedo, and a lot of people was like, "What the fuck does that mean?" Well, there's if you look into the movie, if you look deeply, there's a theme of like teddy bears throughout the film, and the teddy bear is a symbol of innocence, and the way that teddy bear is represented within the film is a sign of innocence lost, and uh, uh, and the fact that Jack molested his son Danny for, I don't know if through like drunkenness or he was just fucked up or whatever. That part we don't know. But at the very beginning of the film, Danny kind of goes into this weird trance and kind of sees all the fucked up scenes from the hotel that they're all going to be moving to. But when he's being examined by the doctor at the very beginning of the film, you see him with his pants off, covering his groin, and the pillow that he's laying on is this like teddy bear pillow, and the eyes are all like kind of cut in a way that's very sinister looking, and he has this imaginary friend named Tony that he talks to throughout the film, and Tony's the one that warns him of the evil is coming. It's called like The Shining or whatever. That's kind of the title of the film. And what ends up and when asked by the doctor, it's like, oh, and he says, oh, Tony lives in my mouth. And it's like, oh, and the doctor asks him, can I talk to Tony? It's like, oh, no, he doesn't, you can't, because when other people talk to him, he goes into my stomach. Oh, God, that's so, like, thinking about that, it's so fucking horrifying.
When
It's
other
like,
people talk to him, he goes into my stomach.
like when other people ask him, he hides in my stomach.
Oh,
He says that
jeez.
Danny says that at the beginning of the film. That's a line from the movie.
He lives in my
Right?
mouth. He lives in my mouth, and when other people want to talk to him, he goes into my stomach.
So the theory is that Jack Torrance, forced sodomy on his kid.
Okay.
Yeah. And so like, right from the beginning of the film, we get that. And there's another scene later on where just before Jack fully goes into his full on complete insanity and trying to kill his family, where Danny goes in to grab one of his toys, and Jack calls him into the room, and it's kind of symbolized that the way that he holds him and talks to him, it's like, oh, it's one of the creepiest scenes in a movie I've ever seen. God, it's just like thinking about it right now, like it's fuck, man. It's
I'd like to have one stream that's happy. And that one that doesn't depress the fuck out of me, or two, enrage me. Why can't we do the light stuff?
we're to be honest, now that I'm thinking about it, we definitely need to have one of those live streams. Like we need to have like a good just fuck it like kind of live stream where we have fun.
Yes, seriously, right?
You've seen The Shining, right? Right, Andy?
Yeah, but I don't think I've seen it enough, or I don't think I've seen the actually like the theatrical release. I think I've only seen like the TV, safe versions.
No. Watch it.
Yeah. Son of a bitch.
No, I will say that like in while you were away, I was saying is like there's a lot of other theories about The Shining as well,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually think that like a lot of these theories and ideas concerning the film, I actually think they're all true. I think there's a lot of symbolism and stuff thrown into this film, and depending on where you're looking and what you're looking for, you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna find it.
Right. Well, I mean, the whole point of putting something on camera, catching it within the frame, everything it means something.
Right. Well,
So.
the whole movie is there's a shit ton of symbolism throughout the entire film.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And Stanley Kubrick is definitely good at creating symbols.
Right. Or using familiar tropes or familiar symbols that people would recognize.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, but this is one. This is definitely one from, and I haven't seen The Shining in probably a decade.
Mm-hmm.
And this is definitely one symbol or one thing that I missed. And going back and seeing it, holy shit, dude.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely there. And I was just like, oh my god, I just
It's one of those like once you see
and
it, you can never unsee it.
right. And the thing is, like, the movie The Shining is a horror film, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, this made the movie 100% more horrifying. This is a true horror film.
Ah, jeez. Ah, jeez. Yeah, I know. I mean, I think lately we've been kind of on like this unmasking, seeing like true faces of things, and it's sometimes real life is the horror film.
The truth sometimes is unpleasant.
Yeah.
What was it like? There was the idea that Indiana Jones is a pedophile,
Right. Yeah.
which is kind of true if you watch Raiders of the Lost Ark and you listen to the dialogue. Him and Marion had an affair when she was 14 and he was in his like what 30s, 40s.
30s. Yeah. Yeah, because like the character. Yeah, because we're talking about like the character, not like the actual actors. Um, you know, Marion says like, "Oh, I was just a kid. I didn't know what I was doing." And then
Oh,
Indiana,
you know what you want.
yeah, you know what you wanted, and like the character of Marion was like maybe like 24 at the time. 24 is
Yeah,
like 10
yeah,
years, and so it's like 10 years ago, and he said like, "Oh, that was 10 years ago." So that she was 14. And Indiana
yeah,
Jones, the man, the character, is at that time like within his like late 40s, early 50s, which would which would make him a middle aged man practically.
disgusting.
Yeah. Well, we can't have nice things. This is why we can't have fun streams,
I don't think I can never unsee that now.
right? Yeah. Yeah. It's
But yeah, now like I said, seeing The Shining, I'll never be able to unsee that now because it's definitely there. There's nothing like it's not like it's not even like a very subtle symbol. It's like it's definitely there right from the beginning of the film.
hmm, yeah. Yeah. And again, I think we're not saying Kubrick was this great person, but I think he was trying. I think he was trying to get back some of his soul that he lost. Uh, with especially with like Eyes Wide Shut.
No, 100% on Eyes Wide Shut. Um, and the thing is, like he was a difficult person to work with. He fucked over a lot of the actors that worked with him. In The Shining, for one, like he Shelley Duvall was losing hair with how stressed out she was
Yeah,
from like
no,
all the
he hated her. He hated her hard. Like to the point where
yeah
like he wouldn't tell her about certain things within a scene just to like freak her the fuck out to get like so you like when you see like Shirley Duvall's like reactions and like somehow like they seem like super real and authentic, it's because he didn't tell her about what was gonna pop out or whatever that was gonna happen in the scene.
yeah, that was real horror.
Yeah, on
Well,
Shelley
and
Duvall's part, yeah.
yeah, and we even in some of the other like because we did in our Kubrick month that we did, we talked about how with George C. Scott, like he pretty much like completely double crossed him and saying it's like, oh yeah, it's like we're gonna play this role seriously, but like I just fuck around and like
Right,
saying
yeah,
like we're
yeah.
gonna
It's like,
play
yeah, well, like
like
we're
10
like this movie is, yeah, we're gonna play it straight, but let's just kind of mess around a little bit, and and like those, and like, and he like the takes that he said that he was doing, those were the ones that he used.
which is like that's fucked up. Like you, um,
I mean, it's funny because they were great performances. They were great comedic performances.
yeah. It's see, I actually had to go back and watch that movie now, like
Right, yeah,
knowing
because
that
you
it's
didn't know that it
like
was supposed to be a
content.
comedy.
I see. I came into like I was probably like George C. Scott. It's like, oh, this is gonna be a very serious film. I'm gonna take it seriously, and then it was like, what the fuck is this?
Exactly.
Uh, but yeah, oh man, I can't unsee what I saw in those two films.
And now I'm kind of afraid to watch them, but I will watch them.
You like Eyes Wide Shut. You have to watch. I'm sorry, like that is a mandatory thing for you to watch now
All right, all right, I
for
will
this
do that.
podcast.
All right. All right. If you're done with your Kubrick talk, let's
Oh, I'm done.
all right. Let's wrap this bitch up and finish with our last movie review. Finally on a fucking happy note, we will be reviewing Blazing Saddles.
Oh, I'm glad I got all that shit off my chest.
Yeah, I know. I think because you weren't able to express it like last week, you're a bit jammed up.
Yeah, like I think I can actually like sleep better now.
All right. Yes. So, yes, Blazing Saddles is a comedy written and directed by Mel Brooks. Of what is it? The producer's fame. Oh no, 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 no. He didn't do the original one, right?
Yeah, he
Or did
did.
he? Oh, he did. Right. Okay.
Yeah, he did the producers, Young Frankenstein,
Right.
uh, s- um, um, Spaceballs,
Mm-hmm.
all sorts of great films.
Right. Yeah. It's this satirical take on the western, and it crams in every slur, every un PC thing you can think of into this movie,
Yep.
and it is great, and it is great because of it, because uh, you know again kind of again referencing Owen Benjamin, he once was referred to as a sacred cow slaughterhouse, and this is if any moniker fit so aptly, it would be to this movie.
This killed all the sacred cows right in
Yes.
this film right here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Again, every ethnic and racial slur possible, every un-PC thing, every everything that social justice warriors now hold up to such regard, it is utterly decimated in this movie.
And it's fucking fantastic.
And it's fucking fantastic.
Because here's the thing, and story, I don't know if we necessarily need to go too much into the story, because that's not really what's the important part of what makes this movie funny.
Right.
But the fact that the reason the film does all this stuff, and it's not because like it's some people say, oh, it's a racist movie, we could never make this film today, blah 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 blah. But the reason it was done is because it's making fun of how ridiculous, it's a caricature of what people think racism is. And sure, I'm pretty sure there's maybe like 0.2% of people that are within the United States that either think or talk like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, it's like it's a cartoon. It doesn't. It's not reality. People don't think like that. People
It
don't
really
act like
is. I
that.
mean, if you needed any
It's
proof, any
making
more
fun of
proof
it.
that this is a cartoon or this is lambasting the idea of race, if this was doing nothing but lambasting the idea of racism, then all you have to do is look to the character played by what's his face. Sorry, Cleveland Little, who plays Sheriff Bart. And how cartoonish he is. I mean, he is like the literal embodiment of Bugs Bunny in this movie.
Oh yeah. Especially
Like
the
there's like
scene
the scene where he's riding into town for
was
the
up
first time.
Mongo.
And they're and the townspeople, they're not expecting a black sheriff. Because who would ever think of such a thing that could be possibly happen? And then everyone he goes he goes in front of the townspeople, and they all and they all start bringing out their guns, and they start all pointing their guns at the new black sheriff, and to kind of like get himself out of it, he points his own gun at him, and he starts like pretending like, or he makes fun of the idea like oh, a black man is holding another black man hostage, and so like he plays into the white people's ignorance.
Yeah. Well, the fact that he also like gives like some sort of like Acme bomb to like this one of the thugs.
Oh yeah, Mongo.
It's
Yeah, it's like he literally comes into like the soundtrack from like Looney Tunes, in Bugs Bunny style, like wearing like what is it? Like a delivery boy kind of
the
uniform. It's like
Candygram man.
Candygram, and that kind of that nasally, almost like a bellhop uniform, like coming in like with his arms all high up. It's like Candygram from Mongo, and then like he signed, and then like sign here, please, and then he gives him the package, and he's like and he waddles back out again, and then boom.
Yeah, and this movie literally makes fun of everything. It makes fun of like racism, sexism, like, everything.
All right,
It's
yeah, like
so
and like the stereotypes, because like what is it? One of like the government officials, um, enlists this entertainer to seduce Sheriff Bart, and like he turns off all the lights, and then they're supposedly like fooling around, and it's like, oh, it's true about oh, it's really true about black men, and it's like, oh yeah, baby, you know it, and then like the light comes back on, and then like they're just eating schnitzel or bratwurst or whatever. And it's like, yeah, we can eat a lot.
yeah. Well, there was The other thing where I knew that this movie is it's making fun of like racism as just like all the dumb shit that like people think of
Uh-huh.
is there's one of the final scenes of the movie where um Hedley Lamar, the antagonist of the film,
Yeah.
he
Played
is
by Harvey
recruiting
Korman.
every like bad guy like that he can to run this town into the ground. And you have like towards the end, like it's this long list of like rapists and the guys like what was one of the quotes was what do you do? It's like, well, I raped, I stole, I raped. It's like, you said rape twice. Well, I love rape.